Okay, so anyways, I want to welcome everyone to my monthly therapeutic session here at Queen's Park. No, but in all seriousness, I'm here to really announce hopefully what's going to become some exciting news. For anyone that's listening right now and that doesn't know my story, I guess I'll take just a few minutes to briefly give the background. There was four major things that happened in my life in the last 15 years. And the first was in 1995 when I had hours left to live. And I received a liver transplant, and that saved my life. And after I woke up after the operation, I just had this extreme desire to thank the donor family, and I did a 12,000-mile walk. Now that was the first. The second was just out of nowhere, I got a call from Vatican City, and it was one of Pope John Paul's assistants, and he asked me if I would like to come to Vatican City because the Pope was watching the campaign I was doing. I was actually carrying an Olympic-style torch going from city to city on this very long journey. And, next thing I know, I'm in front of the Pope and I'm passing him the torch. And it was in front of a world audience. And that moment, was kind of like a surreal, magical moment because I still couldn't believe I was in front of the Pope and I'm passing him this torch. But he said some words that to this day I literally have been following and putting into action. He said that organ and tissue donation was a genuine act of love and encouraged me to pass the torch to the students, and he called the students the young ambassadors for organ and tissue donations. Now, shortly after I left, I wasn't quite sure what he meant by that. I wasn't sure what he meant. And it wasn't until maybe a year after, while I was going through Sarnia, Ontario, and there was this young boy named Christopher. He was 11 at the time, that when I was passing through Sarnia, he wanted to carry that torch across Sarnia, and he did. And he carried it to the city hall where the mayor and all the media were waiting. And this was the third most important thing that's happened in the last 15 years. Young Christopher, when he arrived at the city hall, was getting interviewed by the media. And the media asked him, "Why are you doing this, Christopher?" And Christopher lifted up his shirt and showed literally a dozen scars on his stomach. And kind of, with a smile on his face, told the story of each scar. And Christopher was waiting for a liver transplant his entire life. And, you wouldn't know it by the way by his enthusiasm, he didn't show that he was sick. And the next thing that happened was that Christopher had this desire, and he expressed it to me many times, that he wanted to carry the torch across Canada. And at first I didn't know how this was going to happen, but he kept calling me, and then something hit me. That maybe this is what the Pope meant, pass the torch to the students. Maybe Christopher was that student. And, it was kind of, you had to do, the way, literally, it didn't seem logical or sensible even to organize a torch trek for a boy that was practically getting sick almost every few weeks and that needed a transplant and was so young. But I believed that that's what I was supposed to do. And I did. So in 2004, we organized Christopher's Wish, and Christopher, at 14 years old now, carried that torch in 200 cities across Canada, and each city that he entered, there was literally like hundreds, if not thousands, of students that were there to greet him like a rock star. And when he talked to these kids, he had them like hypnotized. They followed his every word. And as we were going from city to city, and we kept seeing this happen, and the students were trying to stay in touch with Christopher. His email was overloaded every night, he literally inspired a nation of kids, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of kids. And when Christopher finished the campaign, he didn't receive his liver. He was carrying a beeper, and he still didn't receive his liver. And, after that campaign, I was trying to guess was that what I was supposed to do? Was that what the Pope meant? Was I supposed to pass the torch? And is that what he meant by students? And so I kind of went on a soul-searching tour in Europe, a year after. And this is the fourth most important thing that happened. While I was in Europe, I found out that I needed another liver transplant. I got sick with thrombosis while I was in Paris, France. And I was in the same boat that I found myself in '95. I had little time left, and, I thought that was it, Now, the only thing I wanted to do was really not die in France, so somehow I made my way back to Canada, almost dying on the plane. And when I got back to Canada, it was shortly after, on my birthday, that the second liver became available. And it was literally like surviving yet another, ordeal that almost verified that I had more work to do, and I needed to follow what the Pope said. So what came to me was that I kept looking at all the videos that we did with Christopher, all the newscasts, and I seen all those kids, and then it just came to me, well, the Pope said pass the torch to the students, and that's how it's got to continue. So the next campaign that we organized was a 100-student torch relay across Canada, and that was in 2007. And in every city, a student was chosen to represent the torch and become a young ambassador for organ donations. And these kids were fantastic. In each city that we went to, their friends, their families, the schools, the police, everybody rallied around the young champion, the young student champion, and he or she spoke to the media, spoke to the public, dropped pucks at hockey games, and just like a true ambassador. And we did this very successfully. We started in St. John's, and we ended up in Yellowknife. It took a year to do. Now, what this led to, after finishing this, the wheels in my head were already turning, because this was going so successful. The wheels in my head were already turning. And did the Pope mean just to do this in Canada, or was I supposed to go outside of Canada? And that's where the wheels were turning. And I said, if we can do a successful 100-city tour from St. John's in Canada to Yellowknife, then why not tackle 36 countries? And so on October 23rd, 2009, we began a 300-city, 36-country student torch relay from Wasilla, Alaska. And why on earth would I go and start in Wasilla, Alaska is probably the question that someone would ask, and I was asked many times. Well, it was obvious. We wanted Sarah Palin to light the torch. I had this crazy idea that if we can get Sarah Palin to light the torch, then what I believed would happen would be that it would be easy for the Democrats to join in. I think it would be a little harder the other way around if we had a Democrat and get the Republican. That's the way my logic was working. So while she was governor, I was talking to her people, and she knew about it, and it looked like she was going to do it. And then she stepped down. And so, it seemed like that plan was foiled. But I still had to continue in Wasilla because I already had contacted all the schools and the mayors and everybody else. And then next thing I know, I got Governor Purnell, a Republican that's getting behind this campaign, and also U.S. Senate Democrat Mark Begich that was getting behind this campaign. So I had both a Republican and a Democrat that were getting behind a health care issue in Wasilla during our kickoff. And the tone was set in Alaska. The tone that, and this was said many times, that if your loved one was waiting for a organ transplant, and in most cases it's desperate, in almost all the cases, and the family is desperately hoping and praying, and and then finally an organ comes, the first question or the first thought that comes to your mind isn't going to be, is that a Republican or Democratic organ? It just won't work that way, and it doesn't happen, and you won't even think what color that organ is or whatever. You're going to be so grateful that someone had the unselfishness and the courage to donate that organ, and your child is living because of that. That's the tone that was set. And since we started this campaign on October 23rd, 2009 in Wasilla, we took that torch once again across Canada, and we began the lower 48 states in Bangor, Maine on February 1st, 2010. And we got there by crossing the border. We got to Bangor, Maine by crossing the border at Buffalo Peace Bridge. And what we did was, the police are the backbone of our campaign. They're always there to help us in every city, in every community. And so what we decided to do, and it was very symbolic, was have our Toronto police officers carry that torch to the Peace Bridge and pass it at the Peace Bridge to the Buffalo police officers. And it was actually Captain Mann in Buffalo that said, and it was our own chairperson, Constable Ojo Tiobati, that was passing the torch to Captain Mann. And Captain Mann said, we here in America will now look after the torch. And it was beautiful because it was caught on all the news stations in Buffalo. And so our campaign began in America. And now, in the past month, we have visited about 16 cities. We went through Maine, we went through Vermont, we went through New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New York. And in all those cities and states that we went to, we continued getting support from both Republican and Democrat senators, governors, congresspeople, and mayors. And the reason why I think this is really important, I think it's important that we tackle each country and, kind of put a theme to it. Right now in America, and I've been there for a while, and I've been, I watch a lot what goes on in America. They're having a big problem with having both parties agree on anything. And if both parties came together on something, it would be a big deal. And if we can do that, then in my thinking and in my belief is that the issue of organ and tissue donation will even get that much more profile in the states. And that's not to say that we haven't been getting coverage, because we've been getting a lot of coverage as we're going from city to city, and I'm going to show that on website afterwards. But if we can arrange a scenario where we can get both Republican senators and congressmen and Democratic congressmen to both hold the torch and have the students present the torch to them, that is going to be national news. And you know what? We're very close in doing that. We're scheduled to be in Washington on March 24th, and that morning I'm going to have coffee, and I'm not going to name the senator yet, with a U.S. senator in her office. And as we speak, I'm actually waiting for one phone call. One phone call that'll tell me that we're going to have at least one Democrat, one Republican that will be at the Capitol doing the ceremonies of lighting the torch there and passing it to the students from a local school in Washington. I'm one phone call away. And if we can get two, we'll probably be able to get 3, 4, 5, and who knows how many. So I think that's exciting, you know, and I think it was exciting and important enough to make kind of like this kind of announcement, to see what happens, like to stay tuned. You know, is it going to happen or isn't it going to happen? And if it happens, that's going to be big news. I mean, it's big news already because this torch is making waves in the States. Like, you know, and you know, I just want to take a minute here just to bring you to our website. And as you can see, this is our truck of life. This is an ambulance, a real ambulance that's following the torch on the road. And over here, this black thing, this is our webcast screen. So anytime we have an opportunity to get connected by internet, we can show the actual event wherever we are at, whatever city. Sometimes it's in a school, sometimes it's at City Hall, sometimes it's right on the road. We can show our event live, and the whole world can tune in. And we've done that many times already, and it's worked very wonderfully. And I'm going to scroll down below, and this is sort of the torch of life, the legacy. You can kind of go through. We first lit it in Victor Davis's memory, the great Olympic champion swimmer. And his brother and his dad are both members of our team. And there was the Pope who blessed the torch. And there's Christopher. And then the Canada student torch relay. And now the 36th country SOS the Americas student. So this is very neat because it's all got it in one little package there. Then when I keep going down below, you can see our entire schedule here. In the U.S., since we'll be there for the next 14 months, I thought we should have the schedule right up there at the front. So if I scroll down, you can see all the cities that we still have to visit. And you'll see that we're going to end in, well, actually, we're doing even the 3 cities, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and Virgin Islands. But we're ending on the mainland in San Diego on April 20th, 2011. So getting back to the homepage, we always put our updates, the next event over here. And if you look at this, you'll see some of our supporters. And you know, the volunteers are also the backbone of the charity. And we get people like Terry Phillips, who was the very first to drive the truck of life, and you know, he actually went right across Canada with us. And then, you know, we had our next driver, which was a gentleman from New Hampshire, Concord, New Hampshire, and Bob Fairbanks was there. He is, and then. Below that is all our support letters, and you can see each one. Like even proclamations are being done, and this is like a Canadian. I don't tell them I'm Canadian though. I found out the secret is do not say you're Canadian. Like pretend you're an American, because they all think I'm American. You know, so that's in case you needed a tip. If you're doing a campaign, don't say you're American. You know, so they think I'm an American, which is cool. And anyways, while I was in Cambridge, the whole city came out and they did this beautiful proclamation. Can you believe it? A proclamation was done by the city of Cambridge, the famous university of Cambridge, and it was just a great day and event there. And then we got support letters, like I said, like from Governor Purnell, who first in Alaska when we were there, gave his full support to us, and you know, you can see it here, and you know, I can go down the list here, and you'll see letters from so many people here. Jack Reed, I'll tell you what Senator Jack Reed did, and this is important too, because I think he's going to be an important player. No, that's not Senator Jack Reed. That's actually a mayor. Sometimes we videotaped it. That's one of the students, but I'll get back to the. Do I have Jack Reed? Jack Reed. Where are you? Okay, Rhode Island. I know he's from Rhode Island. And okay, let me try this again. No, it's not working. Okay. So anyways, we do got a letter from Jack Reed. And then we had like a lot of TV coverage and media coverage. And what you can do is you can actually see everything from each one of our stops when you just click the city. And you know, you can get into the agenda that day, the press release, the media, all the videos, and I'll just put up another one. So if we go to like Augusta, Maine, you know, you'll see some of the pictures there, and you'll see all the videos that we did. We actually were using YouTube to do that. So you could see all the videos when we first got there, and all the events and activities, and all the pictures as well. We are using Flickr, and there's a lot of pictures that pop up, excuse me. And this is really neat because we got the community, believe it or not, we're going near 100,000 hits with this, because the entire community tunes in. You know, they look at all, like this was the hotel that helped out. You know, they're showing this to their friends and everything, and you know, and so we have a very community-based, interactive, everything's here. And if you go down, you'll see all until Buffalo, which was our last stop. And on the left here,
I guess we just want to say thank you for this.
That's the thing. I'm gonna just kind of. That was Alaska. Okay, I'm just gonna bring you to the left here. This is our entire schedule. So you'll see the Mexico schedule here. That's the entire Mexico, Central America. And just our last stop is in, and I don't know how to pronounce this, it's in Argentina, October 24th. So all the the whole schedule is done until we finish. And
well, how come it's cold if it's?
And what else do we got here? And then fast facts. When we work with the students in the schools, we kind of put this together, and just what applies to their province or their state. You know, because we're, you know, just like our provinces, they're slightly different, the guidelines on how to be organ donors. So we kind of train these students on what to say and all that, and they use this and all the other videos that are put here for reference. So by the time a student is looking at this, they got a really good idea. on you know, on their they get trained, and also it becomes exciting because they see all the other students, all the fun they had carrying the torch and everything. So in other words, this works. This works, and it's been working. And so on October 24th in Washington, there's another thing that's going to happen. The torch has been on a 10-year journey now since it's been blessed by the Pope. And I've gone through like unbelievable ups and downs. Like some were insane, and some ups were so high that it was unbelievable. But the biggest sacrifice was financially. For the last 2 years, I've been trying to keep this campaign going by mortgaging my house, and I'm literally on my last leg right now. I have a credit card, and it's maxed to the limit, and basically, if I'm not going to get any financial support, I'm going to lose the house by next month. And I mean, I've already thought about that, and if that's got to be one of the sacrifices, then so be it, you know. But it has been very stressful financially. So we're hoping one day maybe we can get some help that way. That's one thing. The other thing is, on March 24th, when I arrive in Washington, we're going to start, hopefully, from the Capitol. And I'm waiting for a phone call. Tentatively, we're going to be carrying the torch to a building called, and I couldn't believe it when I first heard about this, it's called the Pope John Paul II Cultural Center, and it's one of the biggest building in the world in tribute to Pope John Paul II. And when I found out about that, and then I phoned them, and I told them the story, and I must have went on like probably I must have given him like the long version, and he must have thought I was a nut or something. But at the end, it was kind of silent, and the person on the other end said, "Welcome home." So to me, if the building gets involved, to me it's like the torch has been on a 10-year journey, and it's finally coming home to Pope John Paul II's house, you know. And it's kind of very, well, that's very meaningful to me. And so maybe that'll be where we get re-energized. I'm not sure, you know, like, so, but the thing about what I'm doing is it just takes so much blind faith. It's unbelievable. It's like you got to leave all logic behind and just do it. Like, you know, and basically when I left for Wasilla, I went on that, just do it, you know, like, and then I'm continuing, you know, and how I'm doing this without a budget, I still have to scratch my head. It takes a lot of begging every day. It takes a lot, but, and then people keep asking, why do you keep doing this? Why? Because I don't feel like I've reached where I'm supposed to reach. And I think when I'm reaching what I'm supposed to reach, I'll know it. I mean, I thought where I was supposed to reach was in France when I almost died. I said, okay, that was it. I brought it as far as I could. And you know, all of a sudden I'm getting another liver, and I'm back on the road before I knew it. You know, so, you know, it's just something I just can't stop. Like, it's something, there's something, you know, and why am I trying to bring Democrats and Republicans together, a Canadian, you know, doesn't, you know, like, because everybody agrees with it. Like, as I'm telling this story, as I'm going, you know, and I'm saying, look, I'm trying to, the people on that I'm talking, the everyday people are wowed by that idea that it could happen, you know. So I strongly believe I'm on the right track to continue doing that. Even in the pursuit in trying to do that is going to make a difference. even if it doesn't happen, the pursuit, and trying to do it. But I think it might happen. So, Sunday, I'm jumping on a bus because our truck of life right now is in East Haven, Connecticut, and it's by our fourth treasured driver. We enlisted another guy from New Haven, Connecticut, and his name is Glenn Schroeder, and the truck is with him right now, and his family is putting together a great event in New Haven on Tuesday. But on Sunday, I'm jumping on a bus with our fifth driver, David Wrightsmith, and we're going to get on the bus, 12-hour drive to New York City, and on Monday, we got a huge event planned in Manhattan. We're going to have the torch. We're going to start at the one of the local schools there, and we're going to bring it to Columbia Hospital, the famous Columbia Hospital, where we're going to pray for the kids that are at that hospital, and there's lots that are waiting for organ transplants there. And then I'll be on the going up and down the states for the next 14 months. So while I had this opportunity to drop in the city I was born, the country I was raised in, I wanted just to give an update, and that's my update. So stay tuned, and we're going to see what happens. Maybe you might see me on Larry King talking talking about passing the torch to Larry King, and we're going to see what happens. Just stay tuned. I want to thank Mr. Frank Cleese and Alex, his assistant, for I don't know how many times they've given us this opportunity to bore you with my updates here, and also my friend Joe. We'll keep you guys updated. So that's about it. Thank you very much, Joe.